Hillsborough County leaders, along with state and local health and safety partners, are urging residents to be vigilant and stay safe as the county continues to reopen. Aligning with Governor Ron DeSantis' safe, smart, step-by-step plan, establishments like restaurants, bars, gyms, sports venues, movie theaters, amusement parks, and tattoo parlors may resume operations with some restrictions. To help protect yourself, your family, and others from getting or spreading the COVID-19 coronavirus, you should avoid crowds larger than 50 people and continue practicing social distancing. If you're around others, keep 6 feet between you when possible and avoid hugs and handshakes. Why? Health experts say the virus is thought to spread mainly from person to person. When someone coughs or sneezes, they spray small liquid droplets from their nose or mouth, which may contain the virus. Residents are urged to wear cloth face coverings in public places. You could spread COVID-19 to others even if you don't feel sick. The face cover is meant to protect other people in case you're infected. Medical-grade masks are not needed for the general public and should be reserved for healthcare professionals. Continue to wash your hands often for at least 20 seconds, clean frequently touched surfaces daily, and try to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home and avoid public places if you're feeling sick. COVID-19 tests are available to any Hillsborough County resident, even if you aren't experiencing symptoms. They are free, no insurance is required, but you must call and schedule an appointment. Visit hcflgov.net/staysafe for more on reopening information along with COVID-19 health and safety tips. Sunshine, blue skies, and friendly faces are why so many people love to call Hillsborough County home. It's all part of what makes Hillsborough County a great place to live, work, and play. But our wonderful weather comes with potential risks, so it's extremely important to always be prepared. If you have to leave your home, emergency management leaders recommend evacuating tens of miles, not hundreds, to a hotel or to a friend or family member's house. That preparedness also includes having a disaster kit ready to go at all times. Your kit should have essentials like water. Consider options like 5 or 10-year shelf life water. Food that doesn't need refrigeration. Think canned food, granola bars, peanut butter, and trail mix. A change of clothes and closed-toed shoes. A 2-week supply of medications with an updated list of dosages and important phone numbers. Important documents including driver's licenses, insurance policies, and health records. You can keep things digital by taking photos of your documents and saving them to a cloud-based application or on USB drives. Speaking of electronics, your kit should have a battery-powered radio and flashlight, as well as extra chargers and spare batteries for your devices. Consider solar-powered or crank-operated chargers. A first aid kit, a whistle, and cash in small bills. If you have young children, be sure to pack formula, clothing, and diapers. Be sure to plan for every disaster. Your kit should always include hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, gloves, and cloth face coverings, along with personal hygiene items like toothbrushes and deodorant. Once your disaster kit is complete, keep it in a designated place in case you have to leave your home quickly. Make sure every member of your family knows where it's located. If you have to leave your home for any emergency, the health and safety of your family and others around you is imperative. Most items will last for long periods of time, but be sure to pay attention to expiration dates and replace expired items as needed. Keep a copy of your family disaster plan with your kit so you always know what you need. We encourage you to visit hcflgov.net/staysafe for the latest updates and information, and to sign up for the HCFL alert system. Hillsborough County, along with local and federal health experts, are encouraging residents to wear cloth face masks to cover their nose and mouth when in public to help stop the spread of COVID-19. There are not enough surgical face masks for everyone, and available ones should go to healthcare workers and first responders. It's easy to make your own face mask out of common household items. The CDC and U.S. Surgeon General say you can use an old scarf, bandana, or make one using a t-shirt plus 2 rubber bands. Cut part of the t-shirt into a square, fold it from the bottom to the middle, then from the middle to the top. Repeat those steps one more time, then add a rubber band to each side. Bring each end to the middle, then secure around your face. They should fit snugly but comfortably. Cloth face coverings should not be placed on children younger than 2 years of age or people who have trouble breathing. The CDC emphasizes that while wearing a face mask, you should still practice social distancing, stay 6 feet apart from others, and continue other preventative measures such as frequent hand washing. We encourage you to visit hcflgov.net/stay safe for up-to-date information. Hillsborough County has teamed up with the Department of Health and other public health and safety agencies to address any impacts the virus may have on our local community. To help prevent the spread of the coronavirus, here are a few tips you should know. Practice proper hand washing by using soap and water and wash for at least 20 seconds. Use alcohol-based hand sanitizer if you cannot wash. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Cough and sneeze into a tissue and throw it away. Clean, high-touch surfaces frequently. Some examples include doorknobs, credit and debit cards, cell phones, keyboard and mouse devices, and toilet handles. Stay home if you're feeling ill. If you have any flu-like symptoms, avoid contact with the public. Avoid sharing personal items in spaces with those close to you. Seek medical care early if you're feeling sick. Symptoms of the coronavirus can include fever, coughing, and shortness of breath. Seek medical care if you develop these symptoms or if you've been traveling or have been in close contact with a person who has traveled from an area with an ongoing spread of COVID-19. We encourage you to visit hcflgov.net/stay safe for up-to-date information and tips.
This is Dave. Dave doesn't know his home's flood zone and was not able to heed flood warnings. Dave and his home are soaked. This is Noah. Noah is an informed citizen. He was warned in advance about potential flooding in his area. Noah took precautions. Noah is dry.
And I saved the animals too.
Good job, Noah. When it comes to flood warnings, be like Noah, not like Dave. For more information, visit hcflgov.net. Be safe, be informed, know your flood zone.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Comprehensive Plan Amendment public hearing. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish quorum?
Go.
Good evening, Miller.
Here.
Hagan. Here. Kemp.
Here.
Merman.
Here.
Overman.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
White.
Here.
Thank you. Have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Board of County Commissioners Comprehensive Plan Amendment Public Hearing. The Board of County Commissioners will consider the adoption of the annual capital improvement program, the capital improvement element update, and the transmittal of 2 comprehensive plan amendments to the State Land Planning Agency and other agencies for review. If these 2 amendments are approved for transmittal, a second public hearing and a final vote will be held before the amendments are adopted. The board will also consider the final adoption of 1 comprehensive plan amendment. I will now request that Planning Commission members introduce themselves for the first time on the agenda items. So we're now going to move into the first item. Who's doing that? Mr. Garcia?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Tony Garcia, Planning Commission staff. The first item before you this evening is the capital improvements element update that will be presented by Mr. Diego Guerra. Diego.
Good evening, Commissioners. Diego Guerra, Planning Commission staff. Excuse me. This is the capital improvement element schedule projects update. This is a routine update that comes before you each year and is required by Florida statute. Chapter 163 of Florida statutes requires that the schedule of projects, a subset of the capital improvement program, and a list of capital improvement program projects that address level service be updated on an annual basis. The update would replace the existing schedule with the schedule in your packets. The update is accomplished by ordinance per Chapter 163 and does not follow the typical plan amendment process. The schedule was developed by county staff from the adopted capital improvement program. County staff determined which projects affected the adopted level of service and identified whether they eliminate a deficiency, maintain level of service, or serve future growth. Plans of other agencies are adopted by reference by existing policies within the capital improvement program or capital improvement element. Depicted on the slide is a summary of the schedule of projects which are placed in 6 program areas. As you can see, the largest groups in terms of funding are transportation and water enterprises. The total funding amount for FY21 through FY25 is $1.2 million for a total of 162 projects. The first step in reviewing the schedule for consistency was to take a look at the projects identified as addressing level of service and see how the schedule compared to those priorities outlined in the capital improvements element. Capital improvement element policy 1.E.2 states that funding should first be expended on projects that maintain level of service and eliminate existing deficiencies before expending funds on projects to serve future growth. As you can see, a combined 89% of funds are slated for projects that either eliminate deficiencies or maintain level of service. Approximately 11% of the funding is being used on projects that serve future growth, and staff found this consistent with the comprehensive plan policy. On this slide, you will see 3 policy excerpts used in the consistency review of the schedule of projects. However, a full list of policies can be found in your packets. The first policy I discussed in the previous slide, which discussed how funding should be utilized. The second policy is from the future land use element. It discusses infrastructure location and directs infrastructure and facilities to the urban service area. Staff found 98% of all projects are within the urban service area. Additionally, the comprehensive plan also has policies regarding the coastal high hazard area and limited public expenditure for infrastructure and facilities within it. After review, staff found that projects within the coastal high hazard area were minimal and were either to serve existing development, repair or replacement, or enhance public access to natural areas. At its August 10th regular meeting, the Planning Commission found the FY21 to FY25 schedule of projects consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of future Hillsborough's comprehensive plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County and recommends adoption by ordinance. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my presentation. Myself and city staff are available for questions.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. I don't believe we had anyone sign up to speak on this. Am I correct?
That is correct, Commissioner Miller.
Thank you very much. What's your pleasure, members?
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Overman, I believe,
Yes.
to adopt fiscal year 2021, fiscal year 2025 capital improvement program. Seeing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Miller,
Here. Yes.
Hagan, Kemp,
Yes.
Merman,
Yes.
Overman,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Mr. Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We were now getting into, we have two items for the transmittal hearing. Item A1 will come before you first. This is HCCPA 2015. This is future land use map change. The presenter is Mr. Will Augustine. Will?
Commissioners, good evening. I'm Will Augustine with Planning Commission staff. Next item before you is Hillsborough County's Comprehensive Plan Amendment 20-15. Next slide, please. This plan amendment is located in north central Hillsborough County along Mango Road, just north of Martin Luther King Boulevard. It is located within the urban service area. Next slide, please. The subject site is a privately initiated map amendment in north central Hillsborough County, which is approximately 19.5 acres in size. The aerial shows that the surrounding area is predominantly single-family homes. The land use of residential 4, residential 6, and residential 9 predominate the area. Subject property is north of the Mango Road, Martin Luther King Boulevard intersection. US Highway 92 and Interstate 4 are to the north. Interstate 75 is to the west, and Taylor Road is to the east. Next slide, please. The subject site has an adopted quasi-public land use classification. It contains St. Francis of Assisi Catholic Church and a rectory. The large quasi-public parcel immediately to the south is Mango Elementary. The areas along Mango Road include public, quasi-public, park and recreational, and residential uses. The areas along Martin Luther King Boulevard are a mixture of office, commercial, and residential uses. Residential 4, residential 6, and residential 9 are the predominant land uses of the surrounding properties. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Mr. Brewer, can you hear me? Thank you.
Mr. Brewer?
There we go. The applicant is requesting a residential 9 land use change. Next slide, please. The currently adopted land use classification of public, quasi-public doesn't allow dwelling units on the 19.5 acre site. With a land use change to residential 9, the subject site would have a potential build out.
We can't hear.
Commissioner Miller, I believe you're breaking up. We can hear him.
Commissioner Miller, if you can hear me, I'm the same as Commissioner Overman. I can hear Mr. Augustine fine. But you're breaking up, a bit.
All
Actually, yeah, I think he's frozen.
Yeah, he's freezing up.
Mhm.
Chairman, if you can hear me, I suggest leaving the session and coming back in. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's still freezing up.
This is like a bad movie.
It happens on occasion.
Commissioner Overman, I think you're the chair. I think Commissioner Miller dropped out. Do you want to give the presenter authorization to proceed?
Am I back yet?
Oh, you're
Am I
back.
back?
He's
Am I
back.
back?
You're back.
You're back.
Thank you.
Hear you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Only in the ghetto. Only in the ghetto.
I would not say that about your neighborhood, okay?
I'm getting a lot of feedback. No.
Yeah, you're logged in twice, actually, Commissioner Miller. So you may want to.
All right. Let me go out again, okay?
Okay. And is it Mr. Augustine?
Yes, ma'am.
You may proceed.
Okay. The currently adopted land use classifications of public quasi-public doesn't allow dwelling units on the 19.5 acre site. If the land use change to residential 9, the subject site would have a potential build out of up to 175 dwelling units. Suburban scale neighborhood commercial, office, or multi-purpose projects are limited to a build out of up to 175,000 square feet or a floor area ratio of 0.50, whichever is less. Next slide, please.
Commissioner Miller, are you back?
I'm back.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're proceeding.
Thank you.
This photograph is a view looking south, showing the subject property along Mango Road. Next slide, please. This photograph is a view looking west on the subject property. Next slide, please. This photograph is a view looking west along the northern boundary, showing the subject property. Next slide, please. This photograph is a view looking north along Mango Road. Next slide, please. This photograph is a view looking south along Mango Road, showing Mango Elementary. Next slide, please. This photograph is a view looking northwest along the eastern boundary of the property. Next slide, please. This photograph is a view looking north along the eastern boundary of the subject property. After distribution, next slide, thank you. After distribution for local agency review, no objections were received. Next slide, please. After distribution to the surrounding property owners, we did receive one objection to the proposal, which I believe you all recently received by email this afternoon. Next slide, please. During the Planning Commission staff's review, it was determined that the request for a land use change to residential 9 is consistent with 1 goal, 4 objectives, and 8 policies in the future land use element. They proactively direct new growth in the urban service area, promote neighborhood design, the compatibility of new development, and site design use. They further direct the protection of existing neighborhoods, gradual transition of intensities, the integration of development, and ensure compatibility. These goals, objectives, and policies of the county's future land use element are further supported by goal 2, 4, and 5 of the community plan. These community plan goals set out to enhance community character, ensure residential quality development, community appearance, and ensure safety and mobility. Next slide, please. Finally, Planning Commission determined that Hillsborough County's Comprehensive Plan Amendment 20-15 was consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County and forwards this finding to the boards of county commissioners. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Gustine. The applicant is Mr. Michael Horner. I see Mr. Horner. Mr. Horner, you have 3 minutes to recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, good evening. I'm Michael Horner, 14502 North Dale Mabry Highway, Tampa, Florida, 33618. I am representing a joint venture development opportunity between St. Francis of Assisi Catholic Church and Blue Sky Communities that you may all be aware of. Rather involved real estate affordable housing developer in both the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County. So it's a privilege to represent this unique joint venture opportunity. This is a 19.5 acre site. I will be brief. I think Mr. Augustine's report was factual, on point. We certainly accept all of those recommendations and findings of fact. We are pleased with the layout of the report. We certainly agree it's consistent with all goals, objectives, and policies of the plan. This is going to be a restricted senior elderly housing development. We will have to go through an entire PD rezoning, commissioners. As you're probably aware, and as Will outlined, we do not have the ability for any private sector development on lands designated public, quasi-public. So we intend to file this and go through a PD rezoning, assuming we can get a Res 9 approval. And then that, of course, will involve detailed site planning, buffer, screening, layout, architectural details, and so forth, as well as public notice within 300 feet and 1 square mile for all the HOAs from this site. The church will remain. We are not taking down the church. The church wants to be an active participant in this process. Blue Sky and the church will be looking to develop a restricted elderly housing that will be most likely in the northwestern quadrant. The benefit of this joint venture effort, board members, to share common infrastructure, utilities, retention pond, and access, as well as parking. So if you look at the map that we'll show before and your map there, the Res 9 extends all west of Mango Road and extends from I-4 all the way south to Broadway. We have Mango Elementary to the south. We have Community Park to the north. This area is quite diverse. We're looking forward to moving forward with this PD rezoning. And I think Blue Sky certainly is a respectable developer, and you have reviewed and approved several of their developments before. This is an opportunity for affordable housing in this area that sorely needs it. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions, board members.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. We had no one sign up to speak as in the public hearing aspect. The applicant waives his time because he needs no rebuttal. What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Overman. I think that's Commissioner Smith, wasn't it?
Chairman, this is James Brewer. We
Commissioner Kemp.
on public comment for this.
We do?
Yes, sir. Arnold.
James, this is 15. Is it?
No.
Yeah, 16 has the speaker.
This is 15.
This is 15.
My apologies.
Okay, no problem. Superman makes mistakes too. We'll be all right. What's your pleasure? Oh, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Overman to approve HCCPA 2015. Seeing no further discussion, please call the roll.
I'm very excited about the motion, but it was, I think, Commissioner Kemp and Overman who made it.
Kemp?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Kemp, and then I seconded it.
Let me make a correction on the motion for the record. Commissioner Kemp makes the motion, second by Commissioner Overman to approve HCA-CPA 20-15. Seeing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Thank you.
Miller?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Merman?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Chairman. Miller, the next item before you is item A2. This is HCCPA 2016, a future land use map change. The presenter is Ms. Krista Kelly. Krista?
Thank you. Krista Kelly, Planning Commission staff. I'm presenting Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2016. This is a privately initiated map amendment. Next slide, please. This site is in the rural service area. As you can see, it's also within the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan boundary. It's east of Tampa and southeast of Temple Terrace, and approximately 1/3 of a mile north of I-4. It's adjacent to I-75 on the eastern side and adjacent to the Tampa Executive Airport to the west. Next slide. The site is 191 acres in size and is used for agricultural purposes. It's in an area referred to as the Eureka Springs area, and the surrounding area is characterized as a rural community, generally to the south of the site. And here you see the airport again. The Tampa Executive Airport and the urban service boundary show a clear separation between the urban and rural area. County public water and wastewater is not available to the site. Next slide. This is an aerial on the left-hand side of the property, referred to often as the dairy property. This image is characteristic of the entire site, and to the east is I-75. Next slide. This is, again, another aerial, just to show that the western side of the property is buffered from the airport by a relatively thick visual buffer of tree and forested property. Next slide, please. Currently, the site is designated residential 1, as you see here, as are all the properties to the south of the site and across I-75. The airport is designated public quasi-public. Next slide, please. The applicant is requesting light industrial plant, which is that light gray color. Next slide, please. The impact of this change on 191 acres would essentially eliminate residential use of the property. Currently, 101 up to 191 dwelling units might be permitted. For non-residential uses under the Res 1 category, it would require that the site meet locational criteria, which it does not. Under the LIP, it would allow an up to a 0.75 floor area ratio, which when calculated out based on the size of the property would allow approximately 7 million square feet. However, to put it more in a typical average, countywide average, LIP is generally built out to 0.088, which equates to 915,000 square feet of non-residential use. Next slide, please. This amendment was distributed for agency comment. We did not receive objections. Again, Development Services noted that public water and wastewater facilities were not available to the site. The Tampa Executive Airport provided a comment that they prefer non-residential uses on properties adjacent to the airport. The school district and Plant City also had no comments. The Department of Health and Environmental Protection Commission noted that future review and requirements may be required at the rezoning stage due to wetland impacts. Next slide, please. Staff reviewed the site for consistency, or the amendment for consistency with the comprehensive plan, and found that the site was consistent with maintaining the rural density and not permitting the extension of water and sewer into the rural area. However, please note that the Planning Commission found that it was consistent with recognizing an enclave or a need for higher density, and also for mitigating public health hazards adjacent to the airport and residential development. Next slide, please. In addition, the Planning Commission found that it provided a gradual transition of intensities between land uses, and found that based on the LIP land use category, a planned development zoning district would be required as a mechanism to promote compatibility. Next slide, please. Based on these findings, the Planning Commission found 2016 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, and forwards this recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. I see no questions. We have applicant Adam Carnegie. Adam Carnegie, David Singer, or Brad Oliskahansky. Which one are here?
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Chairman. This is David Singer on behalf of the applicant.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you. I will try and keep this brief and talk a little bit and hit some of the points staff has already made. Most importantly, the location of this site, 191 acres sitting right in between Tampa Executive Airport and I-75, and you can see shaded by the blue line outline on this slide. What we're going to ultimately do with this site is create a motor enclave for automobile enthusiasts. You'll see up to 350 garage units. Those are represented by the white rectangles you'll see towards the bottom of the concept plan. You'll see a 1.5 mile professionally designed performance track, also towards the bottom there, starting in the middle and going down. This is a performance track, not a racing track. It's for auto enthusiasts to bring their cars out, not on city or county streets, and drive in a safe and controlled environment. On the northern part of the site, you'll see an off-road test track, similar concept, but for more off-road vehicles. I want you to notice here, it's a large site, 191 acres. It is an extremely low FAR of 0.08. There is not going to be significant development of any sort of real density on this site. And the applicant was very careful in selecting this site and designing it to deal with mitigation of wetlands, keep it as green as it can be with very little development. You will see also on the bottom towards the right an event center of up to 15,000 square feet where we can hold corporate outings, corporate dinners, any sort of event space that people might like to rent in Hillsborough County can be accommodated at this site. The LIP district is the appropriate district here for a couple of reasons. Number one, it prohibits residential uses. That is very important considering the airport is right next door. It avoids any type of residential sprawl here. But secondly, it also comes with a component mandatory PD. So the development can be absolutely controlled on this site. You will hear, and I'll go through the calendar in just a minute, but you'll hear the companion PD rezoning application at the same time that you hear the final reading on this LIP designation. It allows the uses that are needed. It prohibits the uses that are not compatible. I think one of the things that resonated with the Planning Commission when they gave unanimous approval for this was it's actually the Res 1 designation that's not compatible for this site, precisely because it's sandwiched in between the airport and I-75. It's sat vacant for quite some time. To give you just an idea of what these garages will look like internally, you can see some of these photos from the existing M1 concourse the applicant has built in Pontiac, Michigan. And I want to call your attention to the square on the bottom left. Right in the middle there is where the M1 concourse sits. And you can see it is sandwiched in between residential uses and commercial uses. You'll hear more about this at the PD hearing, but it is absolutely compatible with the surrounding uses. There was initial questions from the elected officials in Pontiac, Michigan. They could not be more enthusiastic about how the project has turned out. And we'll get into that in greater detail in December. So from a calendar perspective, we'll go after tonight. Hopefully you will transmit to the state. We'll go in front of the ZHM in November. And then both the future land use amendment and the PD rezone will be in front of you in December. Just to wrap up, and for the record, Planning Commission did find this consistent by unanimous vote. Policy 1.2, 14.3, 38.2, 4.7, consistent with the East Lake Oriented Community Plan, as well as policies 16.2, 16.3, and 24.4. We're excited about this project for a number of reasons. I will go into much greater detail in December, but I am here. Adam Carnegie from Stantec is here. The applicant is here. If there's any questions, we can answer for you at this point. And that concludes my presentation. We ask that you send this to the state for their approval.
Okay, thank you, sir. This was a public hearing. We had one person to sign up to speak on this, Arnold Stark.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sir. You recognize you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We agree with the planning staff in their comments on the incompatibility of this request with our beautiful Eureka Springs Park. We're fortunate to live across the park, and almost every day we hear children laughing and playing there. Other than the occasional low drone from I-75 traffic and aircraft noise, our community is a quiet place. I compliment the staff for their interpretation and use of community plans data and looking at the depth of this proposal. At the time they were developed, my wife Lillian was president of the Greater Sonota-Sassa Civic Association and was on the community planning committee for both Sonota-Sassa and East Lake areas. We were also spokespersons for Eureka Springs. I encourage you to continue to use all these documents wisely. We love Eureka Springs Park and our rural lifestyle, and we'll be grateful to be left here to enjoy it. This project would make that difficult. Between us, we have asthma and COPD. When the air contains exhaust fumes, smog from running cars, we have difficulty breathing. It has been recognized that locations where gasoline and products used to clean or repair autos are used, liquid waste sometimes sinks into the ground. There's a chance this could result in contamination of the surrounding water table and aquifer. As described by the developer, there'll be a number of events throughout the year where attendees may number in the hundreds or even thousands. Neither Eureka Springs Road nor Falkenberg Road can handle such traffic. A few years ago, there was an event at the airport which turned Eureka Springs Road into a parking lot. No one could get out of or into their homes for hours. Although the numbers of trips shown doesn't seem bad on paper, the additional trips will be a problem for the children and animals that play or feed near the roadside or on the road itself. Yes, kids shouldn't do that, and cars shouldn't be speeding either. If there's a back gate leading to Eureka Springs Road, we will surely see traffic using it. Therefore, should this incompatible zoning be approved, and since the main entrance is now on Falkenberg Road, it's important that the development's address should be changed to Falkenberg Road, and the access on Eureka Springs Road should be permanently removed. We appreciate your efforts to keep traffic off of Eureka Springs Road and pray that you will live up to your promises. The park must not be damaged by this project, as it is too great a treasure for the county. Any company wanting to build a place as described must have detailed plans for ameliorating the damage from accidents, chemical spillage, and air pollution that might occur there to both land and people involved.
Sir, your time is up, sir. Your time is up. You threw this up. We appreciate you being here tonight, and thank you so very much for your comments. Thank you very much. Applicant, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not need all 3 minutes. I think the applicant, I can speak for, actually agrees with a fair amount of what the past speaker said. We are concerned about traffic, which is why we moved the main entrance from Eureka Springs to Falkenberg. That has been a work in progress with staff over the last several months. In terms of fumes and car exhaust, again, this is a parcel situated between I-4, I-75, and the executive airport. The fumes and whatnot exist currently with a very low density here. Again, this is going to be a low impact development. You will hear more about that at the rezoning. At this point, respectfully, we ask that you listen to your Planning Commission staff, listen to the Planning Commission, send this to the state, and I promise we'll have a much more thorough discussion about wetlands, about environmental issues, about traffic in December.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Smith, you recognize.
Thank you. So if I could ask Krista Kelly, first of all, you said something about the water utilities, public water and wastewater are not available. So in order to accommodate light industrial use, they'd have to make an exception to that because of public health and safety and connect to what, the Tampa water source that the airport is connected to, or how would that be resolved?
It is staff's understanding that they have talked with the Tampa staff about the condition that there was a landfill. I'm unaware of the intensity of that landfill or the contamination, but that presents a public health and safety issue, and that would be considered a potential exception to extending water.
So then the county would pay to extend water outside the urban service area?
Again, I can't speak in too much detail, but I believe it would be the developer's responsibility to extend lines to their property.
Commissioner Smith, may I help?
Who is that?
This is Adam Carnegie, applicant's planner.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, may I help address the question?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just to clearly separate water and wastewater, Commissioner Smith, on the question of wastewater, you are correct. The airport is connected to the City of Tampa's wastewater system. And that came about because the airport wanted to use septic tanks when they were expanding many years ago. And the water quality concerns for the Tampa Bypass Canal actually resulted in the denial of those septic tank permits. That's actually one of the reasons why the Res 1 designation that we're moving away from is really unhelpful and inconsistent, because as you can imagine, 191 homes on septic tanks without public wastewater would be a real issue. So we are, in fact, we have already discussed with and have vetted capacity and know that we can connect to the city of Tampa's wastewater system. In fact, recently we were approached by Hillsborough County, which has identified some operational issues in and around the area that they believe might be best resolved by bringing public wastewater through this area. And that presents another option that we could utilize, and we are vetting those options as we speak. With respect to water, we can either use an on-site water system, which we have looked at, but again, the county has identified lately the fact that in the course of closing the landfill, there are some real issues with soils, and there are likely also to be some groundwater issues. So from the standpoint of the comprehensive plan, the public health hazard exception would allow us to utilize both wastewater and water, public wastewater and water. In the case of wastewater from the city of Tampa, in the case of water, we would extend, the developer would extend public wastewater from the county to this area. So we're looking at several options to accomplish that, and we'll have lots to say about that in December, as Mr. Singer indicated.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Let me ask you a question. Has the developer and the planning commission, and has anybody had any public meetings with the community who, like this gentleman who just spoke to us, worked on their community plan?
Yes, ma'am.
Did anyone were there any public meetings?
Yes. We had, our applicant conducted two virtual community meetings, and everyone was invited, including the Starks. We received some really helpful community input in those meetings. And we also went essentially door to door and talked to as many of the people in the community as we could get in touch with. As a result of that, the initial application had, as I think, as Mr. Stark realizes and suggests, we were going to provide main access via Eureka Springs Road. As a result of hearing the public input, and as a result of technical discussions with Hillsborough County staff who preferred that the access be on Falkenberg Road, the stars all lined up and we moved the access to the east to Falkenberg Road and removed over 30 acres of property that would have been similarly redesignated under this amendment, so that we would not have a primary access there. The only access, Commissioner Smith, that will remain there is an emergency only access.
Mm-hmm. And because Falkenberg Road is so substandard, both Falkenberg and Eureka Springs Road. I mean, they're just like 20 foot wide, if that, crumbling on the edges, no sidewalks, no shoulders, no paved shoulder, just a little strip of pavement. I don't even think it's got a line down the middle, and utility lines and ditches on either side. So when do we, how is that road going to accommodate traffic from a light industrial designation?
We have looked at that very closely. Well, first of all, when we say from a light industrial designation, given the required site plan and the particulars of this project, understand that we have been able to evaluate this particular project and its traffic impacts and figure out how those roads needed to be improved to address this very situation. And actually, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, the pavement condition is not what it should be. And it is not yet, Falkenberg Road is not yet 20 feet wide, okay? It is sometimes less than that. You're absolutely right. So we met in the field with county staff, and reviewed that road from all different perspectives, including the ability to have utilities within that road, the pavement condition, pavement width, and so on. And county staff, the technical staff, has identified a series of improvements that we are identifying as part of the PD designation, part of which is to improve the pavement condition so that it will be consistently 20 feet wide. The traffic impacts that will be presented by this project are, and we'll give you more information as we go, are substantially less than the 191 units that would currently be allowed consideration of under the Res 1. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. That's all I need from you. Thank you very much.
Okay, ma'am.
I do have concerns about this. That it is inconsistent with the community plan. And so it would be a de facto change to the community plan, which has designated this area to remain rural or agricultural or Res 1. And so, I would want to know that really, I think the process should be, you're changing the community plan. You are changing the community plan. So you go to the community and go through the process of changing the community plan, rather than just coming here and saying, well, we're just going to do this thing that's inconsistent with the community plan. That's a problem for me that I'm struggling with. So if this gets transmitted today, I would like to see before adoption some indication of those Zoom meetings and community participation in this, and some indication of what we would do with the community plan. Yeah, so that the other thing that bothers me is when we, and this is the last thing, Commissioner Miller, when we have a comprehensive plan amendment that says it's going to be for light industrial. Well, that can go all the way up beyond 1 million square feet of FAR, except we're being told, not really, we're going to do this particular project here. But if and when, God forbid, this particular project doesn't come through, we've got that, we're left with that LI land designation, and people can come in and do a whole lot with that would be contrary to the community plan, inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. And I mean, we've seen that happen. If y'all recall that magical Rube Goldberg contraption of the environmental thing that led the county to enlarge the comprehensive plan, where they were going to do that whole big environmental energy park. And then that fell through. It sounded great. They were going to do all this stuff with green energy, and then it fell through. And we've still got now the urban service area boundary expanded, and people can do whatever the underlying comp plan designation is. So those are my qualms about this. Unless I can see this probably will move forward, but for the adoption, I'd be looking to see those things addressed. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Let me ask a question, sir. And I won't be here if this passes to come back in December, but I need to ask this question. What's the, how often is this going to be a facility that's going to be used every day? What are you looking at?
Is that for me, Commissioner Miller?
That's for Mr. Singer or yourself? Well, either one.
Yes. The frequent.
Do you want to take it?
Sir, go ahead, David, and I'll add to it as needed.
Well, let me just very briefly address Commissioner Smith's prior comment, and then Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Smith, there's two designations in the future land use code. One is light industrial, and one is light industrial plant. And this one is light industrial planned. And the safeguard that the county has is there must be an accompanying PD when someone seeks to develop. So God forbid something happens, this project goes away. Anyone who would seek to develop would have to come back to you, the board, with a PD. And again, you have then that ability to say, I'm sorry, I understand it's an LIP designation, but your PD just is not compatible with the community. So there's that built-in safeguard. Commissioner Miller, in response to your question, the way that this community works is somewhat like a marina. People will have their recreational vehicles there, much like they would have a boat at a marina, and they will occasionally come and use the facility at their leisure. Again, importantly, it's not a residential situation. So folks are not coming to visit their cars and drive that track every day. There will be some people on site on a daily basis, but it's not a full capacity. Every garage is packed on an everyday basis.
So how do they use their cars? You said they go out on the track. What do they do? Just ride around slowly at 10 miles an hour or what?
There are different cars and different uses for those cars. Some are slow around the track, and some are more controlled performance rides along those tracks. There's also driving schools.
That's a nice way to say speeding?
That's a nice way of saying speeding in a controlled environment.
Okay. You an attorney?
Yes, sir.
I figured that. So therefore, you could have cars out there speeding around the track, making a lot of noise from time to time, maybe more than from time to time. Am I correct?
Well, the cars have mufflers on them. These are all street legal cars, sir.
Well, street legal cars have loud mufflers also.
I suppose some do.
I'm just trying to pinpoint where, you know, if we do this, what's going to be the what's going to happen with the neighbors out there? Even though I know this area very well and it's rural, some of them are spread out very wide as far as properties go. But still, if you have cars out there doing the controlled, whatever you called it a few minutes ago, and they have those mufflers and making noise, that's going to be a disturbance to the public out there. That's why I asked how often will people be doing this, and how will they be utilizing the track? You've answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay. One other additional point, sir, is there's no.
Mr. Chairman.
Pardon me?
Mr. Chairman, I have my hand up.
I don't see it, but go ahead, Commissioner White. I'm having some problems here today. I don't know what's going on. Go ahead, Commissioner White. You recognize.
Okay. Well, I was going to mention the nuance that the request here is light industrial planned versus light industrial, but Mr. Singer has pointed that out. And I can appreciate all of Commissioner Smith's questions and Commissioner Miller's questions. And that's why I champion this concept of a rezoning traveling concurrently with a comprehensive plan amendment. And if this transmits tonight, we'll get a chance to have all those questions answered and get clarity on all those issues as we address the final adoption of the comp plan amendment along with the rezoning in December. I do have a question. I guess first let me ask Ms. Lundgren first. Is it okay, Ms. Lundgren, if I ask a question that might get into the rezoning realm?
Commissioners, as this hearing is focused on the comprehensive plan amendment, so I think some general questions regarding the rezoning may be appropriate at this time, but I would caution the commissioners to remain on the topic of the comprehensive plan amendment. As you understand, the plan development is going to be coming before you if this amendment is transmitted.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'll just, I won't ask any questions about the rezoning, but I'll just put out a high level thought that hypothetically, as part of a plan development, if the applicant were willing to do so, it might not be a bad idea to address potential hours of operation or hours in which the track might be available for use as part of the PD process, because I could definitely see noise, being a nuisance in the nighttime hours when people are trying to get to sleep and whatnot. So that's something I'd sure like to see considered. I was going to make a motion to transmit, but I do see Commissioner Overman raising her hand. So Mr. Chairman, I'll wait until all the discussion's finished.
Okay, Commissioner Overman, you recognize.
Thank you. And this is just my still trying to figure out the whole planning process and where PDs and community plans meet. But in this particular comp plan amendment under the LIP, would a racetrack be a permitted use? And I'm not suggesting that this is a racetrack, but if the track gets laid and the theme changes, but it's still in a similar use, would that be permitted to be a racetrack? Because that was my only concern about it. I love the idea if the community is okay with it. And I think the hours that Commissioner White mentioned as a way of mitigating that to avoid disturbance of the community any more than the airport already does seems like a reasonable concession. But I don't know enough about the LIP as far as the land use that would apply in that particular question. Maybe Ms. Lundgren, would you like to address that issue, or Mr. Singer? I'm fine with either of them. Any of you?
Let me take that, Commissioner Overman. The good thing about the LIP is that the only uses, the full range of uses that are permitted by the LIP are those which the particular accompanying rezoning and the language used in the plan is the related site plan allow for.
Okay.
So in direct answer to your question, it's no. Only those uses set forth in your final approval for the related site plan are permissible, and we will not be allowing any racetracks via that zoning.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. I'll stop there.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
I move to transmit.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Overman to transmit. Commissioner Overman, you have your hand up still?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I'm going to vote for this tonight. I won't be here in December, but I'm going to ask those that will be here in December just make sure that we put every precaution in place to make sure that if this is going to happen, and I understand, I'm one that feels that the I-4 corridor needs to be developed in a proper planning way. No willy-nilly planning, just you got to have some sensible planning on that I-4 corridor. I think that's the next step in Hillsborough County. And like I say, I won't be here, but I'll be watching from afar. But if we do that, we got to take into consideration what the people in that area want, how they want to live. What they still want that rural aspect. I still understand. I think they want to see development out there, but it's got to be development that's going to be well planned. We can't stop it from coming. It's going to come. But make sure that we do some well-planned growth out there. And let's try not to stop it from coming, but it's going to happen. But in November, December, if this comes back, let's just make sure that we dot every I and cross every T, that the developers out there will have a product that the residents out there can live with. That's all that I ask, okay? Please call the roll.
Millie?
Commissioner Miller may have frozen up.
Yeah, I froze up again. Here he is.
Now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Hagan?
Yeah.
Yes. Kemp?
Yes.
Merman?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Before we move on, if Spectrum is listening out there, help me, will you? I'm having some problems in my house today. Spectrum, help me. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. And go.
Let's go see it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there an action that has to be done for a request a motion for approval of the resolutions for transmittal?
I'm sorry, there is.
Thank you.
I apologize. Who is that?
Merman.
Who?
I'll second it.
Merman.
Motion by Commissioner Merman, second by Commissioner Overman to transmit HCCPA 20-15 to HCCPA 20-16. Seeing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Miller,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Hemp,
Yes.
Merman,
Yes.
Overman,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Mr. Garcia.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The final item before you this evening, Commissioners, item 3 is an adoption public hearing. It's item B.1, HCCPA 2007. This is coming back to you. This was transmitted to the state for state and regional review. This is the comprehensive plan text change for One Water. To make the presentation for you, Ms. Melissa Dickens. Melissa?
Ms. Dickens, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. Mr. Brewer, could I please have the presentation? Thank you. As Mr. Garcia mentioned, this is an adoption public hearing this evening. We are excited to bring this amendment back to you all from state and regional review. We also want to thank our county partners who continue to be excellent collaborators on this project. I see Mr. Lyons, Mr. Gormley, Mr. Cassidy, and Mr. Moran all here on the line, and I think that really speaks to the collaboration and the joint effort that went into this plan. Next slide, please. So I am going to be brief because you all have seen this previously, but to refresh, this is serving as the initial phase of the unincorporated county comprehensive plan amendment. It is combining several elements that pertain to water, replacing those elements and updating them. It's also updating and integrating the other water resource related language and maps from throughout the comprehensive plan. Next slide. A little bit of detail about this updated language. We did make sure that it includes the policy direction that you all gave at the beginning of this year that indicated several priorities for water resources planning in the county. Again, was developed jointly with our county partners. We retained important components of the existing plan language, updating and modernizing those components, but also reducing the language in size to focus more specifically on the current priorities and initiatives for the county. And roughly 3/4 of the plan is based in existing language, with about 1/4 of it being brand new language. And the final language is a result of significant public and stakeholder outreach with folks like the agricultural community, the building community, the environmental community, and citizens and residents. Next slide. The final plan has 6 goals. I won't read them for you as they are on your screen. They have remained unchanged since transmittal, and we believe that these reflect nicely the diverse set of initiatives that are under One Water and the different aspects of water resources planning that the chapter contains. Next slide. I did want to spend a little bit more time on this slide to share some updates that on some things that have been updated since this came to you in August. The first item is One Water Policy 4.2.4. That's on page 167 in your packet, the specific strike through underline of that change since transmittal. That was updated per some of the comments that we received from Commissioner Smith at the Transmittal hearing. So we worked with county staff to update that. I also wanted to share that we received state review comments from several state and regional agencies. There were no objections. Southwest Management District, specifically the approach integration aspects of water resources planning. We continue to get or hear recognition for this update in the methodology that was utilized. We've done several presentations, including the Agency on Bay Management. This amendment has also been publicized by both magazines serving the agricultural community in the field, as well as Bay Soundings, which focuses on environmental related news. So there's been a lot of positive press about the approach and the amendment. It's also being used as a case study for the National Alliance for Water Efficiency and a future Water and Planning Network APA webinar. Next slide. Briefly, the consistency review, as I mentioned at the Transmittal hearing, it is a little tricky because we are doing a complete strike through of the existing adopted plan, but we chose the goals from the 3 water resources related elements to serve as the overall consistency review. But of course, this amendment is consistent with those objectives and policies under those goals as well. These goals pertain to service provision, protection of citizens and the environment, and these overall goals are used to represent all of the applicable objective and policy language. Next slide. It's coming through a little slow. There we go. And I did want to share that the Planning Commission recommendation was to find the proposed text in HCCPA 2007 consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. This recommendation was sent to you all. It was transmitted up to state and regional review, and now it is your decision for adoption. And this concludes my presentation this evening. I'm available if there are questions. We also have several folks from the county side on the line available as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dickens. This is a public hearing. We had no one sign up to speak on this issue. So therefore, what's your pleasure, members?
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Overman, second by Commissioner Smith to move the transmit. Any move approval, I'm sorry. Is there any questions? I see none. Please call the roll.
Miller?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Merman?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Now, I believe we need a motion to approve the ordinance for adoption. Am I correct?
So moved.
Correct.
Commissioner Merman.
Motion. Second by Commissioner Merman.
Second
by Commissioner Smith. Second by Commissioner Smith. See no further discussion. Please call the roll.
Miller?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Merman?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Good.
Is there any further business to come before us tonight?
Chairman Miller,
business?
no further
Mr.
business.
Garcia?
No, pardon me. No further business this evening regarding this. I would just like to, as always, give a shout out to HTV for the great job that they do, to Terry McElroy, and of course, the magnificent James Brewer. So.
One day we're going to get to see James, right?
I know.
Look, I'm
we
having
get to
some-
see him.
I just want to see his face.
Yeah.
Are they going to run?
Mr. Brewer, could you put your camera on so we can see you?
Oh my gosh.
There he is. There he is.
There he is.
James.
All right.
Great job.
Very nice to see your face, James.
All right.
Okay. Night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Computer.
And a great
Look, everyone have a
weekend,
great, safe
everybody.
weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see each other next week, okay? Bye.
Right.
See you next week, guys.